Hello, I'm Fulton County Commissioner William Bill Edwards. Welcome to the South Fulton Good Things Show. Today we are highlighting the Office of Economic Development for unincorporated South Fulton. Joining us today is Mr. Edward Nelson, Economic Development Initiative Director. Ed, good having you here today.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Commissioner.
Now, Ed, you've been around for a while. You know, you've come back. How long have you been back now?
Since April 25th, to be exact.
Well, talk to us a little about your background in economic development and your previous career with the county.
Well, I actually started in economic development in 1972 at Georgia Tech Industrial Development Division. And at that time, I was in grad school studying on my MBA. So I was fortunate enough to get a position at Georgia Tech. It was industrial development at the time. No one knew of economic development, but it was just working with small-scale industries in Georgia to help them to grow and expand. After I left there, stayed at Georgia Tech for 5 years, went into private practice, had offices in 4 states, 55 people over 3 years. So it took a very short time to build that because it was basically a need for small-scale companies to get the technical assistance that they need to grow and expand. So I left to buy a manufacturing company at the 11th hour. That fell through after 2 years, and I got a position at the county during that time. Right. And that position, actually, I stayed at the county 8 years, left the county. I headed up economic development at the county, left the county, and went to become president of the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce. Mm-hmm. And then left the DeKalb Chamber of Commerce, went back into private practice, and offer I couldn't refuse.
All right. I remember when you were here with us at the county. I think when I first came in 2000, we were just leaving the department. I've been there for a minute. Let me ask, everybody talks about economic development. Is there any kind of licensing or any kind of certification that's required to do your particular job?
It's not required, but we always strive to get certified in our profession through our professional association, just like an engineer having a certification in his profession. So we take a test. It's a written exam, and also a verbal exam as well. And you have to pass the written before you take the verbal. And then you become certified in your profession. And that's what we call a CECD, a certification in economic development. Not required, but it's a good thing to have when you're looking for employment.
Well, over your long career, I know you probably had a lot of accomplishments. Share with us some of the most memorable things that you've done in economic development.
I think the most memorable thing after leaving the county, which was a very hard decision to make, I became the first African American to become chair of our professional association. And that really put me into the international arena of economic development. Mm-hmm. So that was really a big step for me professionally, as well as a lot of growth personally. And I came back into the States because I went back and forth to Europe for about 7, 8 years, and got really exposed to economic development in a global perspective. So I got back here and decided that I was going to make another change. And that change was to really focus on helping small communities because a lot of small communities can't afford to have economic development staff. So what I did was started a practice to provide outsourced economic development services to small communities.
Well, I know that you have to have something to work with as you go on with your profession and the job. Talk to our viewers a little bit about South Fulton unincorporated and its assets.
Well, I think South Fulton unincorporated is really positioned for growth. The assets with, everybody speaks of Atlanta International, but the Fulton industrial area, for example, is sandwiched in between 2 interstate highways. Mm-hmm. So that's really great access for the companies that are in the Fulton Industrial, access to transportation. There's a lot of growth opportunities in Fulton Industrial, especially. You have something like 11 million square feet of available office space, but you can't forget the 40 million of office spaces, industrial space that's already leased out. So there's an opportunity to help those companies that are there grow, and an opportunity to fill that 11 million square feet of industrial space that's available.
I think it's important for our viewers to also know that you are the Economic Development Director for
Unincorporated
South Fulton.
Right.
So that's the boundaries on which you work is in the unincorporated area. What are some of the initiatives that you're working on now in unincorporated South Fulton?
Well, our approach is basically to identify what the impediments are initially, because you can't grow if there are issues and problems from an economic perspective. So one of the problems, of course, is the challenge of public safety in parts of the Fulton industrial area. But we immediately formed an internal task force to address the serious issues that will prevent economic growth on the Fulton Industrial District. The other issue is the low graduation rate in our high schools. So we immediately, now when you look at trying to get a company to come into Fulton Industrial, one of the very first things that site selection consultants look at is the educational system. So when we found out we had a problem there, we immediately formed a South Fulton Education Alliance. And that alliance is extremely passionate about resolving this problem. We've had 2 meetings already. At the same time, we can't afford to sort of plan a strategy, because every day we have companies that are calling us, and we're working already with the state on several projects. We're working with the Development Authority of Fulton County on several projects. So things are happening as we try to develop the plan, as we try to find answers and solutions to those issues.
Well, I've talked to some of the people on your education committee. They're excited about what they're doing and excited about the direction they're going in. Let me ask you this question. In the scheme of economic development, what's more important, retention or expansion or attraction and recruitment?
Well, that's a good question. They both are important, but what's most important is to take care of your existing industry base. And I would suggest that maybe at least 60 to 70% of our time should be focused on those companies that are already there. But 30 to 40% of the time we have to look at recruitment, bringing in new companies because of basically the trend in economic development. The trend now is for instance, in manufacturing, bringing manufacturing back to our shores. So you have to focus on getting your share of manufacturers. And right now, we've actually working with 3 companies. You may not be aware of this, but we're working with 3 companies that are manufacturers. And one in particular decided to locate in our area because of some of the assets that we have being close to the interstate. But he's also a supplier, a potential supplier to Caterpillar, which is located in Athens. And we are where the transportation and logistics network work is. So we have an awesome opportunity to get companies in that 11 million square feet of office space.
Now, you've mentioned Fulton Industrial a couple of times in your conversation. What is your primary focus on Fulton Industrial Boulevard?
To really form a public-private partnership to really help the companies that are there to grow, and we have some ideas that we're going to implement with that, and to also work with the CID there to help them expand and grow as well. They are really a key organization along with the South Fulton Chamber to work with us to really bring economic prosperity to the Fulton industrial area. And Fulton industrial area is very important. I mean, you often hear that it's the largest industrial tract east of the Mississippi. We have a lot of space for manufacturing opportunity, which drives one of our target markets, which is manufacturing and advanced manufacturing. Because of all of the transportation companies and logistic companies there, we are really focusing on logistic and transportation, trying to expand that. We have a lot of small transportation companies there that need help in getting jobs. Mm-hmm. And we have an idea to help them do that we'll probably announce sometime in the latter part of this month.
Just briefly before we go on this segment, tell us a little bit, if you can, about the Fulton. You mentioned the CID. Mm-hmm. Tell our viewers a little bit about what that is and what their goal and vision is.
Well, the CID is made up of landowners in a particular area, and they have to be contiguous. And what they do, they tax themselves and provide funding to address the problems in the Fulton industrial area. Now they're in a particular area now, but they're trying to expand from the area that's south of I-20 all the way to Charlie Brown Fulton Industrial Airport. So they tax themselves to address if there are issues or perceived issues on crime, to make sure that the boulevard is clean from litter. So they provide those funds for beautification, sure, those type of things to make it look attractive to companies that are trying to move into the area.
Well, good. We're talking to Ed Nelson, Economic Development Director for Unincorporated South Fulton. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we'll talk in depth about economic development in unincorporated Fulton County. South Fulton is located southwest of the airport. It is poised for substantial economic growth opportunities with more than 80,000 acres of forested land, with the potential for over 6 million square feet of space that could be used for commercial, industrial, or retail developments. Welcome back to the South Fulton Good Things Show. For those of you who have just tuned in, I have been speaking with Mr. Edward Nelson of the Unincorporated Economic Development Department in Fulton County. Ed, thank you for staying with us for the second half of the show. We've been enlightened today, and you shared some information about economic development in unincorporated Fulton County. What are some of the target markets that you are looking at for South Fulton County?
They include, now we're looking at them, but we have not confirmed them yet. But automotive, and it's primarily because we are in the automotive belt from South Carolina to Mississippi. Entertainment, there are a lot of movies being made in the area, and that's primarily because of the state incentives for as tax is concerned. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we have Maudir Studios nearby, and also Screen Gems in Fulton County as well. So we have to focus on that. Advanced manufacturing and manufacturing because of the available space we have in the Fulton Industrial District. And renewable energy. We have an inquiry now, a renewable energy company out of the Netherlands who wants to come here and produce machines, the machines that they use in the renewable energy industry. So there's a lot of activity towards those target markets. But in logistics, of course, logistics and transportation is really one. We have one that we're working on that we aren't ready to announce yet, but it appears that it will be related to the quality of life in unincorporated South Fulton, which is really a major, major asset that we have in South Fulton. So we're working on that, and I'm excited about that because it's just something I think no one is not really thinking about except those people who may be in that industry. But I'm looking forward to working on that to see if that will be one of our targets.
Everybody's talking about public-private partnerships, and I've grown to understand that if we're going to make it in government, that we need to start establishing the concept of public-private partnerships. Tell us about some of those that you've established since you've been here.
Well, I actually did one in Florida from the ground. I organized it. I trained the board. They asked me to run it as a consultant, which I did for almost 3 years. But it's really the organization of choice now in our industry. And it's primarily because they are uh, really focused on what their initiatives are. They're strategically oriented. And the big thing, they are sort of insulated from budget constraints because you have private dollars coming in along with the public dollars. So when you put both of them on the table, there's a strong public-private benefit for economic development. And in addition to that, economic development is literally run by the private sector. It doesn't happen by government. Government enables the process, but it's the public sector that really drives economic development.
Well, if you could put that on a scale of 1 to 5, and how important do you think that this whole concept of partnership is to economic development?
Oh, I think it's extremely important because that's the way of the future. It's a public benefit when you can merge public benefit and private benefit, and they all get together and work together for a common goal. It will happen. It will happen. Government can't do it by itself, and also the private sector can't do it by itself. So together, I think that's the way of the future.
Fulton Industrial is a very big asset. We all know that. We've done a lot of good things. The county has stepped up and began to turn Fulton Industrial around. Now you got the CID that's taking over a lot of things. What else is in the near future as we talk about Fulton Industrial Boulevard?
Well, we are working on some workforce issues down there as well. We find out that one of the major companies down there is running about 60% capacity because it can't get skilled workers. So we are focused on, with a project that we call Project EduTech, to get skilled workers right there on the district. So things are happening. Project Orange that we're working on could also, from an education standpoint, bring a added benefit to Fulton Industrial area. So there's a real opportunity for growth there and sustainable growth because everything that we're working on is sustainable and will be there a long time. When you talk about economic development, we're kind of moving away in our industry from the number of jobs. But we got to focus on sustainability, keeping the companies there and helping them to grow rather than focus on just jobs. So I think the partnership that is happening between the CID, the Chamber, and the county will lend itself well for growth in Fulton Industrial. Now, I always use as a model a friend of mine that runs a public-private partnership in Charlotte. They have over 130 partners, and that's county governments. They actually go over into another state, South Carolina, so they got county governments, as well as a long list of industries and companies that are part of this public-private partnership. So it can work. I see it work every day. I mean, I use that as a model, so it can work.
So these initiatives that you got going forward, how do you plan to accomplish? You got some out there in the hopper now. How do you plan to accomplish these initiatives?
Well, if you notice, when we meet with the CID, we talk partnership. When we meet with the South Fulton Chamber, we talk partnership. It's really an effort to change mindsets. So once you change that mindset and get everybody working together, I think it'll be easier. Everybody understands that we need to work together. And it's producing results already. So hopefully in 12 months we can see some really positive change with this partnership.
I want to jump over a minute. We talked a lot about FIB, Fulton Industrial Boulevard. Let's talk a little bit about some other major thoroughfares that we have, one being Old National Highway and one being the Cascade Corridor. What do you see in the future as we move toward those two entities?
Yeah. Well, we are already working with the Old National Merchants Association and helping them to identify companies, retail companies for the Old National Commons Marketplace, Old National Marketplace. So that's already happening. I meet with them. I've met with them twice already. So that effort is really underway. South Fulton Parkway, we've already worked with the South Fulton Parkway Alliance to address an issue with the grass cutting on the parkway, because we've got to keep that grass cut. I mean, that's a part of beautification, and of course the paper up. So we're pretty active in providing the kind of partnerships and relationships, developing the relationships that we will need in the future to be successful in economic development.
What about the Cascade Corridor?
The Cascade Corridor, I've been knowing those developers a long time, and we're also involved with them. That's a growth area. There's a company, another restaurant, for example, on Old National that wants to open up a second restaurant in the Cascade Corridor. So we're going to help them do that. So it's a lot of opportunities on Old National and the Cascade Corridor as well. And I started working on the Cascade Corridor when I was here before with Southwest Atlanta Revitalization Project. So I've been intricately involved in that for a long time.
We have some, if people could go along the FIB corridor, they would see some businesses. But it's always astonishing to me the types of businesses that we have on the corridor that you don't see. Can you share with us some of the names of those businesses who elected to stay in Fulton Industrial Boulevard, who are doing very well?
Yeah, I'll give you a good example of one. There's a company in Fulton Industrial that's in the business of providing uniforms, and they reprocess uniforms. But the company that manufactures the emblems that go on these uniforms were actually located in their facility. Well, the growth has been so great that the company that manufactures the emblem moved next door. So that's another growth, and that's almost added 85 jobs to Fulton Industrial area.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of things that are happening, the kind of good things that are happening on Fulton Industrial.
Well, I know you got Pepsi Cola has a brewing plant there. You got Miller-Zale, I think it's Orange, Illinois, UPS, some of the great names that we know that are actually right here on Fulton Industrial Boulevard.
And those are some of the companies that we will approach to be a part of this partnership, because we can help them too. I went to, in fact, PepsiCo at the time when I was here before was Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats owned the Gatorade facility, and PepsiCo bought them. The only reason that company is there, I picked up the phone and called Gatorade myself because we were not on the state list. And when I found out that they were looking, I went to lunch, and the rest is history. They're on Fulton Industrial. But they're actually growing. We can help them now because they had a problem. I went to visit the company. They had a problem in a supply of raw material to make the bottles. So that's what we can do. We can help them find another company or help the company that supplies them find added raw material resources so they won't lose money when the lines are down in Quaker Oats.
What do you think is the toughest part of your job? Besides me.
Well, it's really managing expectations, I think. It's tough. Public servants like yourself, they want to see things happen overnight. And unfortunately, economic development is, yes, really. Economic development is not an overnight thing. Even though we are successful sometimes in getting quick projects, we are successful sometimes in working with the state like we are now that happens real quick. But long-term benefit, it takes a while, but it's happening. Believe me, it's happening. I'm actually surprised at how fast this thing is happening since April.
Well, just quickly, tell me, if I was someone out here looking at this, how can I get involved with economic development in South Fulton County as a citizen of unincorporated?
Our Education Alliance is a perfect example. We have, I spoke at one of your community events, and 3 people out of that community event is now part of our alliance. I attended a meeting over at QLS. I've had several phone calls from QLS on how the seniors can create partnerships with companies that are coming into Fulton Industrial. I've already got some ideas and have contacted one company about using seniors as employees. So good things are happening.
I believe that good things are happening. Ed, I just want to thank you. Everybody I've talked to, when I tell them that we now have someone in place for economic development for unincorporated South Fulton, they get excited because that was the piece that we missed. And we're very, very blessed to have you because of the experience that you bring to economic development in South Fulton. So we're looking for big things and good things out of you in the near future. Well, that ends our show for today. For more information on the topic we discussed, please contact my office at 404-612-8230. You can also reach me by email at william.edwards@fultoncountyga.gov. I also invite you to visit my website at southfultongoodthings.com. Thanks for watching, and be sure to catch us next month when we bring you more of the good things that are happening in South Fulton County.